Hey, book divers, welcome back. We're diving into a classic today, something I bet you've seen on a shelf or two. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, this one. Yeah, it's like almost vintage, right? 1989 this came out, but
Yeah.
it's one of those books that just, the advice, it just keeps holding up.
It really is, it's timeless. And speaking of things that age well, this deep dive, perfect for that commute, right? Get those brain juices going, start your day with some positive thinking. And hey, if you're into this kind of content, hit that subscribe. We'd love to have you along for more book dive.
We're not just skimming the surface today, though. No way. We're going deep on the 7 habits.
Hmm.
Going to pull out some of those aha moments, those little things that make you see it all differently.
Let's do it. Okay, so Covey starts off strong, right? To this idea of paradigms, basically how we each see the world. And he uses that example, the optical illusion, like, is it an old lady, a young woman? It's trippy.
Totally messes with you. And that's the whole point. Two people, same image, both right from their viewpoint. It shows you how much is all about perception.
And how much easier it is to argue with someone when you realize you might be seeing the same thing, but through totally different lenses.
Exactly. And that's huge for communication, for solving problems. It's not about who's right. It's about navigating those different viewpoints.
For sure. Okay, so then he hits us with this character ethic versus personality ethic thing, basically saying true success, it comes from inside, from being a good person, not just seeming like one.
It's like, think of a skyscraper, right?
Hmm.
You can't build that on just a flimsy foundation. You need bedrock character ethic. That's the bedrock.
And the personality ethic, that's like putting, I don't know, lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig, just fancier looking on the outside.
Oof. Yeah, kind of harsh, but true. So many people focus on the external stuff, but without that solid base, it crumbles.
Building on sand, one wave, and it's over.
Exactly. Covey's saying we got to build on principles. That's where the 7 habits come in.
Okay, then there's the maturity continuum, dependence to independence, sure. But the real magic is when we get to interdependence, right?
Yeah, it's like he's challenging that whole lone wolf mentality. Like, no, we're all in this together, folks.
Which brings us to the PPC balance. Sounds super jargony, but it's actually simple. He uses the goose and the golden egg example. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah, classic. You got a goose laying golden eggs. You don't just keep taking the eggs, right? You got to take care of the goose, too.
So it's about balancing those results, the golden eggs, with nurturing the thing that produces them, the goose itself.
And that goes for everything. Work, family, hobbies, pushing for that promotion but neglecting your health. That's killing the goose, my friend.
Ouch. Too real. It's easy to get caught up in those eggs and forget where they're even coming from.
Makes you think, right? What are your geese and are you giving them enough love?
Deep thoughts for a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the habits themselves. Habit 1, be proactive. And it's more than just taking initiative, it's deeper.
Way deeper. It's about realizing that no matter what happens, you always get to choose how you react to it. You always have a choice.
And that story he tells about Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, talk about a situation where you could be forgiven for feeling like a victim, right?
Absolutely. But even there, Frankl found a way to choose his response, to find meaning in the suffering. It's incredible.
That's the circle of influence versus circle of concern and action, right?
Exactly. Proactive people focus on what they can control, not on all the stuff they can't. Instead of complaining about traffic, they're using that time to learn something new.
Or, listen to a great podcast.
See? You get it. It's a small shift, but so powerful. And Covey even gives you the words to use, right? Instead of I have to, I choose to, it changes everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Having a vision for your life, making choices that get you there.
Like building a house, you got to have the blueprints before you start hammering.
Totally. And in life, that blueprint is your personal mission statement. What do you want your life to be about?
It's not following someone else's definition of success. It's defining your own, then going for it.
He even talks about imagining your own funeral. A little morbid, but effective. Like, what do you want people to say about you when you're gone?
It gets to the heart of what matters, right? What's your legacy going to be?
Such a powerful question. Okay, habit 3. This one's all about time management, but not the usual stuff. This is next level. Put first things first.
Yeah, he introduces the time management matrix, which sounds way more complicated than it is. Basically, you're dividing your tasks into what's urgent and what's important.
And here's where it gets good. He says, we should be focusing on the stuff that's important, but not urgent. That's the sweet spot.
Thinking about the future, building relationships, taking care of yourself. Those things always get pushed aside because they don't feel urgent in the moment.
But they're the things that really matter in the long run, right?
Exactly. It's playing the long game, learning to say no to the less important stuff, even when it feels urgent.
This one's huge for anyone who feels busy all the time but not productive. It's about getting a hold of your time, really owning it.
And speaking of owning it, have you checked out the link in the description? Grab your own copy of the 7 Habits, dive deeper into all this good stuff.
Oh, good call. Okay, let's talk about habit 4. Think win-win seems simple, but of course, Covey goes deeper.
Oh, he goes deep. He lays out 6 whole paradigms of human interaction. 6. Win-win isn't just about negotiating, it's bigger than that.
It's about finding solutions where everybody benefits, right? Like, there's enough to go around for everyone.
Exactly. Abundance mindset, not scarcity.
Okay, which leads us to, you guessed it, habit 5.
Yeah.
Seek first to understand, then to be understood, the power of listening, but like really listening.
And not just waiting for your turn to talk, but actually trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
He tells that funny story about the optometrist who tries to fix his patient's vision by giving them his own glasses. Like, what?
Yeah, it's hilarious. But it's so true, right? We do that all the time, project our own stuff onto others without really hearing them.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But empathic listening, it's about getting what's behind the words, the emotions, the real meaning.
It's about creating that space where people feel safe to open up, to be honest, and know they'll be heard.
This is so key for any relationship, personal, professional, whatever. It's about trust and connection.
Absolutely. And speaking of building something awesome, let's talk about habit 6. This is where it all comes together. Synergize.
Teamwork on steroids, right? The idea that we can achieve way more together than we ever could alone.
It's about valuing those differences between us, using them to create something new and amazing.
He gives those great examples, like the team that comes up with a brilliant marketing plan because they're all coming from different angles.
Or the couple who figures out their vacation plans by actually listening to each other's needs and finding something even better.
That's synergy, those win-win-win situations. But it doesn't just happen magically, right? It takes effort. It takes being willing to get uncomfortable.
So true. And that leads us, finally, to habit 7. Sharpen the saw, taking care of yourself so you can show up for all of it.
Like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. You can't be your best self for yourself or anyone else if you're running on fumes.
We've all been there. But neglecting self-care, it's like trying to chop down a tree with a dull axe. It's just going to take longer and be way harder in the end.
And remember, sharpening the saw isn't just about bubble baths and face masks, although those are great too. It's about taking care of yourself on every level. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
Finding what fills you up and making time for it, even when life gets crazy.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's essential. You can't give what you don't have, right?
Truth.
It's about investing in yourself so you can show up as your best self, for yourself and for others.
You know, one thing that really struck me about the 7 Habits was how Covey brings in all these personal stories. It makes it way more relatable, like he's human too.
Oh, for sure. He's not afraid to talk about his own struggles, his failures even, and that makes the successes mean more.
Right. Like, okay, this guy gets it. He's been there.
Yeah.
Makes you realize it's all a journey, right? This whole self-improvement thing.
Totally a journey, not a destination. And speaking of journeys.
Oh, no. Are we at the end already?
Not quite. But we are getting into some of the deeper cuts here, the stuff that really makes you think.
Okay, good, because my brain's ready for more. What else you got, Covey? Hit us with your best shot.
All right, challenge accepted. How about this? Living an inside-out life.
Whoa, okay, hold up. Break that down inside out. What are we even talking about here?
So most people, right, they see the world outside in, like, if I just had that promotion, that perfect partner, that fancy car, then I'd be happy.
Oh, I know those people. Always chasing something external, hoping it'll magically make them content.
Exactly. But Covey's saying, nope, true happiness, it's an inside job. It comes from within, from your character, your values, all that good stuff.
So instead of trying to change the world around you, you got to change yourself first.
Bingo! You become the change you want to see and all that jazz.
That's like that circle of influence again, right? Focusing on what you can actually control.
You got it. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. Your attitude, your choices, that's where your power is.
Okay, so how do we actually do this inside-out living? He talks a lot about principles, right? What are some examples?
He's big on the timeless ones, fairness, integrity, honesty, respecting everyone, serving others, striving for excellence, that kind of stuff.
So not just some fluffy feel-good stuff, but like actual pillars to build your life on.
Exactly. When you live by those principles, your actions match your values, and that brings a sense of peace, a sense of purpose, no matter what's going on around you.
It's like having that inner compass always pointing you in the right direction, even when life gets messy.
Love that analogy. And speaking of finding your way, Covey talks about creating a personal mission statement. It's like your life's roadmap.
A written declaration of like your core values, your big goals, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You got it. A powerful exercise to figure out your priorities and start living more intentionally.
So it's like your own personal constitution.
Uh-huh.
Like it. Guides your decisions, keeps you on track.
Exactly. And Covey gives some great examples in the book to help you get started.
Now, he also talks about the dangers of being too focused on the wrong things, like being spouse-centered or money-centered.
Yeah, he says the best way is to be principle-centered. That way you're not getting blown around by every little thing.
You're not a slave to your emotions or what other people think. You're making decisions based on what's right, not just what's easy.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner stability, that wisdom, and peace. And it helps you roll with the punches, too, because you're not clinging too tightly to any one outcome.
Okay, I got to ask about this one. First creation in your mind. What's that all about?
He believes everything is created twice, first in your mind, then in reality. So you got to use your imagination, visualize what you want, see those possibilities before they become real.
So not just daydreaming, but like actively using your imagination as a tool.
Precisely. Like an architect designing a building before the first brick is laid, that kind of thing.
I love that. We're not just passive bystanders in our own lives. We have the power to create what we want.
And that brings us to Covey's thoughts on leadership. He makes a distinction between leadership and management. Leadership is about inspiration, about setting the vision, while management is more about execution, keeping things running smoothly.
So like the captain of a ship versus the first mate. Captain sets the course, inspires the crew. First mate makes sure everyone's doing their jobs and they get there safely.
Perfect analogy. And Covey emphasizes empowering others through what he calls stewardship delegation.
Stewardship delegation. Now that sounds serious. What is that exactly?
It's all about focusing on results rather than micromanaging. You give people the freedom to figure out how to achieve the goals, you trust them to use their skills and creativity.
It's about giving them ownership and holding them accountable for the outcome, not dictating every little step.
Exactly, and this builds trust, encourages innovation, and creates a much more engaged and motivated team.
Now let's talk about relationships. Covey has this really interesting concept called emotional bank accounts. Tell me more about that. It sounds intriguing.
It's a brilliant metaphor for the trusting goodwill we build with other people. Every interaction, it's either a deposit or a withdrawal.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do we make deposits into these emotional bank accounts?
By being kind, being respectful, being honest, keeping your promises, really listening when someone's talking to you, showing them you care.
And withdrawals, what does that look like?
Withdrawals happen when we're disrespectful, dishonest, break our promises, or just generally dismiss someone's feelings.
So it's like a regular bank account. You want to make more deposits than withdrawals to keep things healthy, right?
Exactly. And just like with your finances, having a healthy balance in your emotional bank account gives you a cushion during tough times. People are more likely to forgive mistakes and offer support when they know you value the relationship.
It's about investing in those relationships, putting in the effort to nurture them over time.
Absolutely. And this ties back to what we were talking about earlier with synergy. Remember, Covey believes that synergy isn't just a nice bonus, it's absolutely crucial for effective interdependence.
It's about tapping into the collective wisdom, the creativity of a group to achieve those 1 + 1 = 3 results, right?
Precisely. And he gives those fantastic examples, like that team that comes up with the killer marketing campaign because they're all coming from different perspectives. That's synergy.
Or the couple who finds a vacation solution that's even better than what they initially imagined. Synergy is all around us.
Exactly. Synergy is about creating a culture where people feel safe to express their ideas, challenge each other respectfully, and build on each other's strengths.
So it's not about everyone agreeing all the time, but about valuing those differences and using them to create something truly innovative.
Absolutely. And remember, synergy doesn't just magically happen. It takes conscious effort, a willingness to be open to new ideas and to be a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Speaking of effort, we've arrived back at habit 7, sharpen the saw. We've touched on it throughout our conversation, but it's so important it's worth revisiting.
Absolutely. This is the habit that makes all the other habits possible. You can't be your best self if you're running on empty.
It's like trying to run a marathon with no training and no fuel. You might start strong, but you'll burn out before you reach the finish line.
Exactly. Sharpening the saw is about taking care of yourself in every way: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
It's about recognizing that self-care isn't selfish. It's essential for living a productive, fulfilling, and meaningful life.
It's about investing in yourself so you can show up as your best self for yourself and for others.
It's true. When I think about the 7 habits, one of the things that really works for me is how Covey brings in his own stories.
Yeah.
Makes it feel real, like he's not just preaching from on high.
Oh, totally. He's right there with you, talking about his own struggles, even his failures, and that makes the wins feel more earned.
Absolutely. That's like, okay, this guy, he gets it. He's been there too. Makes you realize we're all just figuring it out as we go. This whole personal growth thing, it's a journey.
Totally a journey, not a destination.
And speaking of journeys,
Are we at the end already? Time flies when you're having fun with paradigms.
we are wrapping up our deep dive into the 7 habits. It's true. But like any good book, it's not really an ending. It's more like the start of a new chapter.
I love that. So as we close the book, literally and figuratively, what are some big takeaways for our book divers out there? What should they be running off to apply to their lives right now?
Okay, 3 things. Write these down, folks. 1, principle-centered life. Make those values your compass. Guide your decisions, always.
That number 2.
2, own your happiness. It comes from inside, remember. Focus on what you can control, that circle of influence, and let the rest go.
So important. And number 3, the grand finale.
Make those 7 habits your habits. It's not about being perfect. Nobody is. It's about constantly striving, growing, becoming a little better every day. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's more than just a self-help book. It's like a guide to designing a life you love, a life of meaning and purpose.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for those of you who are ready to dive even deeper, remember that link in the description. Grab your own copy, highlight it, underline it, make it your own.
Yes. And then come back here. Let's chat about it in the comments.
Yeah.
Tell us what your biggest takeaways were, what you're going to try differently in your life. We love hearing from you guys.
Absolutely. Keep the conversation going, keep learning, keep growing. That's what it's all about.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this incredible book dive, everyone. Until next time, happy reading.